2 clay pots, a handful of sand, and some water. Simple as it sounds, that is the entire device. In 2001, the watch company Rolex flew a Nigerian schoolteacher to Geneva to hand him an international award for building it. Time magazine listed it as one of the best inventions of the year. The recognition came down to a stark, measurable contrast. Tomatoes sitting in a regular basket will rot in 2 days. Those same tomatoes, harvested by the same farmer in the exact same climate, will last 27 days inside this $20 clay pot. This massive difference between 2 days of freshness and nearly a month is driven by a single principle of physics that the modern world largely forgot. Yet your own body uses it every single day. When you sweat, water pushes to your skin. That water evaporates, taking heat with it, and you cool down. By isolating that exact physical reaction and scaling it around a food storage container, you can create a functional refrigerator using nothing but dirt, water, and zero electricity. The principle is called the latent heat of vaporization. It dictates that when water evaporates, moving from a liquid state to a vapor, it absorbs energy. It actively pulls heat from whatever is immediately around it to power that transition. This chart compares the energy required for different water transitions. Boiling 1 gram of water takes 418 joules of energy, but for that same gram of water to evaporate, it pulls 2,260 joules out of its surroundings. Evaporation consumes over 5 times the energy of boiling. To apply this massive energy draw to food storage, you take 2 unglazed porous terracotta pots, place one inside the other, and fill the gap between them with wet sand. Water molecules slowly migrate through the porous clay of the outer wall. When they hit the outside air, they evaporate. This graphic shows the temperature drop inside the inner pot as that evaporation occurs. The escaping vapor pulls heat directly out of the sand, the clay, and the interior cavity, dropping the temperature inside by as much as 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. If it is 40 degrees Celsius outside, the inside of that inner pot can sit at a crisp 6 degrees. This specific arrangement optimizes a silent, naturally occurring heat removal event into a functional household appliance. But there is a catch. This device has a strict limitation in physics that dictates whether food lasts 3 weeks or rots immediately. That hard limitation is called relative humidity. Evaporative cooling relies entirely on how much moisture is already in the air. In regions like northern Nigeria Sahel, the dry season humidity drops below 20%. Under those conditions, the pot performs as described. This graphic compares high-capacity evaporation in dry air against stalled evaporation in an environment with 80 to 95% humidity. In a tropical climate, the in is already merely saturated. The water on the outside of the pot has nowhere to go, and the cooling stops. If you built this in the humid southeastern United States and it only drops the temperature by a few degrees, that represents an unbreakable law of thermodynamics rather than a manufacturing flaw. Evaporative cooling is a free, effective tool, but it is strictly bound by the geographic constraints of atmospheric moisture in your specific area. The climate criteria are clear. If you live in a dry climate with below 50% humidity, this is a practical food preservation tool. If you live in a humid climate above 70%, Gode 1 is strictly an experimental physics demonstration. If you have the right climate, the build requires an 18-inch pot, a 12-inch pot, coarse sand, and a cloth lid. The pots must be unglazed terracotta. If the clay is glazed, it is sealed. Water cannot pass through the walls and the entire system fails. The Nigerian teacher who won the Rolex award, Mohammed Ba-Abba, understood these precise climate conditions. He trained local potters to manufacture them and distributed over 30,000 of these specific devices across rural farming communities. He created a localized economy around a physics principle. Women in those communities reduced their market trips, cut their food waste by more than half, and maintained vital nutrition through brutal dry seasons. This clay pot is just one small point on a much larger spectrum of evaporative cooling. At the far end of that spectrum are massive ancient structures built thousands of years ago, like the Persian Yakhchal. Using the exact same physics as the Zeer Pot, these towering mud brick structures manufactured and stored solid ice in the middle of the desert, with zero electricity and no moving parts. The underlying thermodynamics are efficient enough that modern engineers are studying them right now, looking for ways to reconstruct ancient thermal architecture to relieve modern air conditioning grids. We will look at exactly how those structures worked in the next video.